Hi guys, so I'm going to be sharing with you my recipe for chicken puffs. Now these are a savory puff recipe and they are so delicious and it's quite simple to make. So let's go ahead and get started. Into my saucepan here, I'm going to go ahead and add in some water and I'm going to turn my heat on to medium. What I'm going to do is I'm going to also add in some butter that I have cut up into cubes. This is 1 stick of butter that I've just cut up into cubes. And what we want is for this butter to melt down into the water. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a little stir. And we're just going to wait for this butter to melt down into the water. After it started melting down, I'm just going to give it a nice little stir again just to help the butter melt along. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in some salt, as well as some granulated sugar. Give that a little stir and we're going to wait for this to come up to a boil. Now it's boiling there, see all those bubbles, that's our indication that it is boiling. So we're going to go ahead and add in some all-purpose flour. Now all the amounts of course will be listed below. So I added in my flour. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my heat and just stir in that flour with that water and that butter. Just constantly stir it and stir it and stir it for about 2 minutes with the heat off. And it's going to come together into a nice little dough, which is actually called a pâte choux dough. So we're just going to go ahead and continue stirring this for 2 minutes with our heat off. Now this does give you a little bit of an arm workout, so be prepared for that, but that's always a good thing too. So let's just go ahead and keep stirring that. Now after 2 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to put our heat back on. We're going to put our heat on medium-low this time, and we're just going to cook out the excess water in this dough and start to cook the flour a little bit. We're not looking for any color changes. We're not looking for anything else. So we're just going to constantly stir this for another 2 minutes with our heat on medium-low. Just going to go ahead and stir it. Just keep stirring it just to make sure that all that excess water is going out. So after stirring for about 2 minutes, you're going to start noticing that a film is forming at the bottom. There's going to be that layer of film at the bottom. So we're just going to stir this for 2 minutes. And when you start seeing the film at the bottom of your pot, you're going to know that that's when your dough is nice and done. So you're just going to go ahead and take your heat off, remove it from the heat, and get a bowl. I like to use you want to use a heat-safe bowl. You can see that film at the bottom there. So we're going to get a heat-safe bowl, and we're going to make sure that it's a nice cool bowl because we're trying to drop the temperature of the dough now. It's nothing fancy, nothing special. You just want it in a bowl to cool down a little bit before we add in our eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and plop my dough into a little bowl here. And just wait for it to cool. Wait at least 5 minutes for it to cool down a little bit because we don't want it to cook our eggs when we add it in, but we do want to incorporate the eggs into it. So I'm going to just set that aside and let that cool for about 5 minutes. And there you have at the bottom of your pot a nice film, and that lets you know that your dough is done. So I have my dough here and I have some large eggs. What I'm going to do, I just felt my dough real quick just to make sure that it is nice. It's still warm, but it's not too hot. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in 1 egg at a time. Now all the amounts of course will be listed below in the description box for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 egg and give this a mix with my wooden spoon here. And as soon as you add in your egg, it's going to split. It's going to start separating, but we're just going to stir this until it comes back together. It just takes about a minute or so, and then after it comes back together, just like so, we're going to go ahead and add in our second egg. And we're just going to continue doing this with all the large eggs, and after each egg that you add, it will become separated and it will become all looking like it's not going to work, but after you just work it in for about a minute or so, you'll notice that it will come back together beautifully. So after it's just, you see how it's all just separated and all split up, it comes back together beautifully. And add in all your eggs one at a time and continue to do that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead now here and add, this is my last egg that I've added in. Just stir that until it just comes back together yet again. And after it's come back together, what we're also going to make sure and do is really scrape down the sides of the bowl to make sure that everything comes off the side of the bowl as well and incorporate it into the dough. And after it's come together, after we've added our last egg and it's come together, I'm going to take about 15 to 30 seconds and just make sure and mix everything really well together to make sure that everything is incorporated into the dough. So just take about 15 to 30 seconds after you've incorporated your last egg, just stir it in. After we've done that, we're going to go ahead and get a piping bag, or you can use a Ziploc bag with a tip. I am using a tip 2D because I personally like the shape that my puffs come out in, but you can just use any tip that you have, any large tip that you have. So we're going to go ahead and place our tip into our bag. And then I like to insert my entire bag into a glass and fold it over the top of the glass to make sure that when I'm placing in my dough, it's very easy to put in. So I'm just going to go ahead and place in my dough. You want to have your oven preheated to 375 degrees. So your oven will be preheated at 375 degrees. I have a baking tray lined with parchment paper. I'm going to place a little dollop of my dough on my baking tray and then press my parchment paper onto it on each corner. This is just going to help ensure that the parchment paper is not moving everywhere. Now this is how I like to swirl my little rosette pieces of dough, my rosette puffs. I like to start off with 2 circles, so I'm going to show you guys here. I do 1 full circle around, 2nd full circle around. When I reach to the top, I let go of the pressure from the bag and swirl it off. 1 full circle around, 2 full circles around, come back up top, let off pressure from the bag, stop squeezing, and then just swirl it off. And I like to do these about 2 inches in diameter. So after I have done all of my little puffs, we're going to go ahead and add some egg wash on top of it. This is just 1 large egg that is beaten with 1 teaspoon of water. And I'm just going to go ahead and just dab on top of it. I don't want to alter the shape too much, but we do want to have a little bit of that egg wash on there. So just dab it as best as you can. And these are going to go into your preheated oven for about 30 to 35 minutes or so. You don't want to open the oven door while these are baking, so just leave them in the oven, but have your light on and check on them about 30 minutes or so. You're looking for a nice light golden brown color, and you can see how beautiful these came out. They are amazing, a lovely little crust at the bottom, and they have a little light shine to them. And they are fantastic. It really was not that difficult to make these puffs. They're super easy to make. You can see that using the tip, I still do retain some of that beautiful shape of it. Now we're going to go ahead and get ready to fill these up. Now, if you are using a cream, which is typically done with these, you're just going to cut a little X at the bottom of your puff here. And you can use a piping bag and a tip to insert some cream if you wanted to. Now, we are making a savory version of this, so you can cut these in half and then fill them with your filling. Let's go ahead and get started on our delicious chicken filling. Now I am using some white chicken that is in water in a can. Now you can use regular rotisserie chicken, baked chicken, whatever you have on hand that's shredded up. The reason I like to use this is because it really shreds up really finely. So I do like to use the canned chicken. You can even do this with tuna if you wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my saucepan on medium heat, and I'm going to season this with salt and pepper. Now the reason I'm cooking this down first, even though this is fully cooked chicken, is just to get out of any excess water. I've also added in some cilantro, some finely chopped cilantro. You can even add some chives to this if you want. And I'm just going to go ahead and mix this around and cook down all of that excess water from the chicken because we don't want that to get into our puffs as we're filling it. So I'm just going to cook this down for about 5 minutes to remove the excess water. So after I've cooked that down, I'm going to turn off the heat and let it cool for about 5 minutes before I add in some mayo as well as some mustard. I'm going to go ahead and mix that up. And as I'm mixing, I'm trying to break up that chicken, make it nice and fine so it becomes nice and creamy. I'm also going to add in some garlic powder. Just gives it a really nice pop of flavor, as well as some paprika. Go ahead and add some paprika, and of course, guys, all the amounts will be listed below in the description box for you. And you can alter this. You can alter this chicken to however you like. You could add some hot sauce or pepper sauce in this. It's really good in this too. Now I'm going to take one of my beautiful little puffs here. I'm actually just going to break it open, makes it a whole lot easier. And we've got that lovely pocket inside, which is going to hold our filling. So I'm going to take about a teaspoon amount of my chicken filling and just add it in. I'm going to continue doing this for all of my puffs. And now the reason why I love this recipe, and I love this even more, a little bit more, I must say, than a sweet cream puff, is because the savory chicken just really does complement that amazing dough. I hope that you guys enjoy this recipe. Thank you guys so much for watching. It is so delicious and so easy to make. I hope that you give it a try. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.